Bienvenidos, señores, otra vez a la clase de español. Hoy tenemos que hablar de las comparaciones del comparativo y el superlativo, ¿vale? Vamos a hablar básicamente de las comparaciones. Ahora, os explico en inglés. Welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing comparatives and superlatives in Spanish. Comparatives and superlatives are essentially something you should be very familiar with in English. A comparative would be something like, I am taller than you, I am more intelligent than he is, she is better than he is, something along these lines. A superlative, just like you may remember from high school yearbooks, superlatives are expressions such as, he is the smartest person in the class. She is the tallest woman in the world. Something along these lines. Something where somebody is the top of something. Now, in Spanish we have very specific formulas, just as we do in English, as to how we express these comparisons. And so, like with a lot of what we do in Spanish, it's important that you look at this a little bit not like some humanities class, but almost like a math class. These are formulas that you need to memorize in order to properly express yourself. Okay, so let's take a look at how they work. We'll first be looking at comparisons of inequality. This means, I am taller than you are, she is smarter than I am, we are more intelligent than they are. These are comparisons of inequality, where there's not equality between the parties being compared. And so, each of these comparisons of inequality will begin with either más or menos. So, más will be the way that you start if you're saying, I am more intelligent than you are. Menos would be the way that you start if you want to say, I am less intelligent than you are. Okay? All we're looking at here is not the rest of the sentence. We're just looking at the part that encapsulates the comparison. So, more intelligent than, for example. After más or menos, depending on your comparison, you'll have your adjective, your adverb, or your noun. So this could mean the adjective, more intelligent than, the adverb, more quickly than, and the noun, more money than. So if I have more money than you, it's not all that likely, I'd be using más, and then the noun dinero, and then que. Okay, so más or menos plus our adjective, adverb, or noun, and then the word que. And it will always look like this. So for instance, taller than would be más alto que. In English, sometimes we do it very similarly to this, and in English, sometimes we have this ER type ending, right? So I am thinner than he is. We don't really have that ER type ending in Spanish. It's always more thin than, instead of thinner than. Okay? But just like we do with longer words in English, we would say more intelligent than. So it would really work the exact same way. Más alto que. More tall than or taller than. The menos would work the same way. Menos inteligente que. Less intelligent than. Okay, so it's important that you just have that formula down. Más or menos plus the adjective, adverb, or noun plus que. And it will look like this. Más alto que. A quick note, if we're talking about numbers, if I want to say, I have more than $50, or I have less than $50, or she is older than 50 years old, or something along these, there are more than 20 people in the room, we'll be using de instead of que. So you can see an example here, tengo menos de $50. This is really something kind of different than what we're looking at, but it's important not to get mixed up here. If you're talking about numbers, we're going to use de, not que. So I have less than $50. Menos de $50. Okay, so these are our comparisons of inequality because it's comparing two things that are not equal. Something is more something or less something than another thing. Over here, we're going to look at comparisons of equality. So this is when somebody is as tall as somebody, or has as much money as somebody, or this house is as big as that house. That works a little bit differently because these are comparisons of equality. And so, a basic comparison of equality, when we're talking about an adjective or an adverb, meaning as tall as, or as quickly as intelligently as handsome as, right? Adjectives or adverbs. We're going to use the word tan, then our adjective or adverb, and then the word como. So you can see an example here. As tall as would be tan alto como. As tall as would be tan alto como. As intelligent as would be tan inteligente como. As well as tan bien como. If we're comparing nouns, as in I have as much money as you, she has as much energy as I, we need to use the word tanto. This is an adjective, tanto, that will be describing this noun. As it's an adjective, and all the adjectives we've seen in this class, it needs to agree with the noun that it's describing. And so, if the noun that's coming here is a masculine singular noun, we'll be saying tanto. If it's a feminine singular noun, we'll be saying tanta. And so, for example, as much money as would be tanto dinero como. Whereas, as much energy as would be tanta energía como. So you can see that here we're saying tanta because energía is feminine singular, so this needs to be feminine and singular. If we were talking about as many houses as, this would be casas, and so we need to say tantas in the feminine plural, casas como. Okay, so forming a comparison of equality, we need to look at two formulas. One formula is the formula we use when comparing adjectives and adverbs. And when doing that, we use the word tan, then our adjective or adverb, and then como, as we saw here, tan alto como. When comparing nouns, as many houses as many cars as much money as, we need to use a form of tanto, which could be any of these four, plus our noun, and then como. So they're very similar, but we have to make a slight distinction between when comparing nouns and when comparing adjectives and adverbs. Okay, so those are our comparisons of inequality and our comparisons of equality. This leads us also to the need to discuss the superlative. The superlative works very similarly to our comparisons of inequality. So in the superlative, we're going to start with a definite article. Then maybe have the noun. Okay? We'll then follow it with más or menos. Then our adjective. And then de. So this is another example of we really need to memorize this formula here. It'll be a lot easier for you to memorize the formula if you come up with some examples for it. But regardless, it's important to have this formula absolutely memorized. If you don't memorize the formula, you'll make mistakes with it for sure. Okay? Because it's pretty exact. But it's sensible, so it shouldn't be that hard to memorize. So let's look at, for example, the idea of the tallest man in the class. The tallest man in the class. And so, we need to start with a definite article plus our noun. So, we say the man, el hombre. Notice I put noun in parentheses here. The reason I'm doing that, if we know what we're talking about, if you say to me, who is the tallest man in the class? and I want to respond to you, the tallest man in the class is John, I don't have to repeat the word man. And so I could not say this if I felt like it. Okay? It would just mean then the tallest in the class instead of the tallest man in the class. So, el hombre. We want to say tallest, right? The most tall. So I'm going to say más. The adjective we're discussing is tallness, height. So I say alto. And then to say in the class, instead of saying en la clase, as you might expect, you would want to say, what we're really saying is of the class. And so we say de la clase. So, let's see, for example, if I wanted to say the least intelligent dog in the house. Okay, the least intelligent dog in the house. Try to figure out for yourself how you would say that. Maybe pause it, and then let's see how we do it. The least intelligent dog in the class, in the house. We would say, el perro. Right, so starting with our definite article, then our noun, el perro. We're doing least intelligent, so menos. Then our adjective, inteligente. And I want to say in the house, and the way we say that is of the house. And so I'd say de la casa. How about the smartest woman in the world? The word for world is mundo, el mundo. The smartest woman in the world. Figure out for yourself how we would say that. What we would say would be la mujer. Again, if you would ask me who is the smartest woman in the world, and I was saying the smartest woman in the world is Susie, I wouldn't necessarily need to say mujer. I can if I want to, but it's not necessary. So la mujer más inteligente. Remember back to last chapter, we want to say de el mundo, so it's going to become del mundo. Okay, so these are how the superlatives would work. One more thing to introduce to you, and then we'll do a couple of examples of the normal comparisons as well to practice those. There are times, of course, when I may want to say más bueno, right? More good or better, or más malo. I may also want to speak about the similar adjectives, more well or more badly, which would be más bien or más mal. In these cases, when I want to talk about more better, more good or better, or more well or better, we use the word mejor. So mejor is the word that we use for better. So if I want to say, I am better than John, I say, yo soy mejor que Juan. And so this mejor is a más bueno in disguise. Yo soy mejor que Juan. We would not say yo soy más bueno que Juan. The word for más malo or más mal would be peor. Now, if we want to say the best or the worst, you simply have to say, put the definite article there. So that's like saying el más bueno, we would say el mejor. Or el más malo, el peor. Right? Or it could be la mejor or la peor. Similarly, if we want to say older or younger, these are words you don't want to get mixed up with mejor. We're going to have the words mayor and menor. Mayor and menor. And again, if we want to make these superlatives and we want to say the oldest, it would be el mayor or la mayor. The youngest, el menor or la menor. And then it becomes a superlative. So I'd like to do a couple more examples. I'll put some on the board. You can then pause your recording, try to do them on your own, and then see what the answers would be. Okay, so pause it for a second. We've got John is taller than I, Francisco is the best. He is more athletic than Frank. The word for athletic is atlético. And we are less intelligent than they, or than they are. Take a second to do it. And here's the answers. John is taller than I. So, we'd want to say, Juan es. For taller, we're going to say more tall. So, más alto que yo. Francisco is the best. We'd say, Francisco es el mejor. Remember that mejor means better, el mejor means the best. He is more athletic than Frank. Él es más atlético que Frank. And we are less intelligent than they are. Nosotros somos menos inteligentes que ellos. We'll do just a couple more examples and look at some of the comparisons of equality, and then we'll finish up for today. So, a few of equality. To So, I am as handsome as Juan, you have as much money as I, and they are as good as you. Pause your video, and we're back. I am as handsome as Juan. Start off with I am. Yo soy. Now we're comparing an adjective, so we want tan. The adjective for handsome would be guapo, como Juan. You have as much money as I. We'd say, tú tienes. Now here we're comparing a noun, which is money. So we'd want to use tanto dinero como yo. And here, they are as good as you. We'd want to say, ellos son tan buenos como tú. Okay, if you got any questions on this, hit me up or watch your PowerPoint, do some more studying, do some of the practice from the book, and hit that quiz. ¿Vale? Hasta luego.